Miss America contestant regrets everything after she wins, then she vanished. There she is, Miss America. Wait, she isn't here? Where could she be? That was the major question at the 1937 Miss America pageant when the woman of the hour mysteriously disappeared. No one was sure if she vanished on her own accord or was the victim of nefarious circumstances. But when the truth finally came out, it was the biggest scandal to ever hit the pageant world. Bette Cooper was only involved in the pageant by happenstance. When the 17-year-old left her house in Hackettstown, New Jersey on a fateful summer day in 1937 for Bertrand Island Amusement Park, she could only think about how much fun she was going to have. While walking around the park, Bette and her friends spotted a sign calling for contestants for the Miss Bertrand Island Beauty Pageant happening that day. Thinking, what the heck, Bette signed up to compete. It was all supposed to be for laughs, but lo and behold, Bette Cooper was a natural. She surprised everyone, including herself, by winning the title. Though there was a bit of a snag, another prize beyond bragging rights, that made her stomach drop. As Miss Bertram Island, Bette Cooper was automatically entered into another contest that was way more competitive, the Miss America pageant. It was too late to turn back now, and she still had to break the news to her parents. Bette's parents weren't thrilled by the idea of their daughter entering the pageant world. Beauty contests clashed with their religious beliefs, and it was a lot of pressure to put on the young teen's shoulders. But ultimately, they figured her chance of winning was too much of a long shot for Bette's world to turn upside down by overnight fame. After all, she was up against incredibly seasoned pageant girls. What could go wrong? The Cooper family took it as a vacation opportunity and made their way to the Miss America pageant in Atlantic City. Bette was a bundle of nerves until she met her assigned personal escort, 23-year-old Louis Luoff. Bette and Lou had hearts in their eyes from the moment they met, which made her relaxed enough to breeze through each pageant category. Her small-town charm, sweet singing voice, and golden curls drew comparisons to Shirley Temple. Everyone adored her. On the eve of the pageant's grand conclusion, Bette and Lou went out to dinner, where they discussed the possibility of her snatching the crown. She didn't think she stood a chance of winning, but if she did, Lou wasn't going to stick around. In 1971 book There She Is, The Life and Times of Miss America, Luoff remembered his blunt response, "I just want to let you know now that if you do win, you can forget about me, because I don't want anything to do with it. The last thing in the world I want is publicity." Sadly, Bette was a publicity magnet. Her performance of the song When the Poppies Bloom Again for the talent portion wowed the crowd. Then there was the evening gown portion, where she looked every bit the stoic beauty. To Bette and Louis' disappointment, her chances of winning weren't as laughable anymore. With her newfound love on the line, Bette Cooper went off to the pageant finals where she learned her fate. In a mighty underdog victory, Bette Cooper was crowned Miss America 1937. A local newspaper printed a blurb about her win. The new Miss America has aspirations for a theatrical career. Her first choice is the screen, the stage second, and in a pinch would accept a radio future, though, surprisingly, that wasn't Bette's dream at all. Instead of celebrating her win, Bette retreated to her hotel room. The realization that her life had suddenly changed forever was crashing down on her, and she was panicked. Bette's father was at a loss how to console her, so he called up her recent ex, Luoff. With her parents' permission, Louis sneaked Bette out of the hotel under the cover of darkness. They climbed in a boat and puttered off to hide from the fervor of press conferences and interviews, waiting on board only a short ride away from the pier at Atlantic City. The next day, everyone gathered at the steel pier for the official reveal of the year's Miss America winner. The crowd and pageant officials waited for the young woman of honor, and they kept on waiting because Bette Cooper was a no-show. When it dawned on people that Miss America was not running late, panic set in. Bette Cooper was declared missing and people jumped to drastic conclusions like kidnapping. They combed the area searching for her, though no one noticed the little boat where she sat in hiding. At nightfall, Louis and Bette docked the boat without detection. They transferred over to a car and set off to Hackettstown to bring Bette back home. She wasn't interested in fulfilling the duties of Miss America, she just wanted a normal life. Louis and Bette said their goodbyes and never reconnected again. Both went on to marry and live lives out of the spotlight, though Bette couldn't run away from her title entirely. Officials tracked her down and reminded her that Miss America wasn't an empty title. They convinced Bette to complete a few of her Miss America duties, but when those were finished, she swore off life in the limelight. Nowadays, however, evading fame or infamy isn't as easy as it once was. So, when decades after Bette, another young beauty queen, was the center of a horrible scandal, the public was paying very close attention. That scandal was the murder of 6-year-old beauty pageant queen JonBenet Ramsey. From the start of the troubled investigation, authorities cast a critical eye on the Ramsey family. Parents John and Patricia, and even JonBenet's older brother, Burke, were all subject to massive public scrutiny. Decades later, Burke Ramsey is finally acting on rumors, and his moves are controversial, to say the least. In the winter of 1996, the Ramseys were an upper-middle-class family living in Boulder. Patriarch John was the president of a computer system company, and Mother Patricia was a loving caregiver to her 2 children, Burke, age 9, and JonBenet, age 6. JonBenet wasn't your average 6-year-old. Although she participated in all kindergartner activities, she was also an accomplished beauty pageant contestant who'd won multiple titles, including Little Miss Colorado and National Tiny Miss Beauty. Everything was peaceful within the Ramsey household that year until the early morning of December 26, when Patricia awoke to notice an odd letter resting on the staircase. She bent down to pick it up. While reading the note, Patsy was horrified to realize that it was actually a handwritten ransom letter. Whoever penned it was claiming to have taken her little girl. Even scarier, the writer was demanding $118,000 in order to get her back. Although the letter specified not to contact any cops or authorities, Patsy did just that, calling 911 at 5:52 a.m. Police cars showed up at their address on 749 15th Street. Below, within minutes. Right away, observers noticed something was seriously awry with the ransom request. First of all, John remarked that $118,000 was the exact amount of money he'd received as a bonus that year. Could this be a coworker seeking to get money out of him? Authorities also pondered another significance behind the strangely specific number. Perhaps it was referring to Psalm 118, which dictates, "O give thanks unto the Lord, for he is good, because his mercy endureth forever." Was this a religiously motivated crime? Upon searching the house, investigators found nothing. Friends and family came over to comfort the distraught family, thus contaminating the entire crime scene. Without any clue as to who had taken JonBenet or where she was, John Ramsey agreed to pay the ransom amount. However, the hours passed, and as they waited for a call, nobody ended up coming to claim the money. This is when a detective had the idea to ask John and a family friend, Fleet White, to search the house again in an effort to see if anything was amiss. Even the tiniest detail could be crucial. So JonBenet's father went down to the basement. He opened a door that the family usually kept latched, only to make a horrifying discovery: his young daughter's body, bound and covered in a blanket. She was dead. Overcome with grief and devastation, John Ramsey carried his child's body upstairs. The shattered father never could have anticipated the storm of unspeakable accusations that would soon be levied against him. The Ramsey parents were immediately placed under intense scrutiny, suspected by investigators for the seemingly staged note, lack of forced entry, and their apparent reluctance to cooperate with detectives. Patricia had an explanation for the latter accusation, however. Patricia alleged that the reason she and her husband were hesitant to assist in the investigation against them was because they desperately wanted resources instead to be directed externally towards the actual killer. However, while the Ramseys were never formally indicted, rumors flew defaming them and alleging their involvement in their daughter's early demise. Patricia Ramsey died in 2006, 2 years before the couple received a formal apology from Boulder County. One person who'd never even been considered a formal subject by the state was still reeling from the trauma of false accusations. That person was Burke Ramsey, JonBenet's older brother, who'd been only 9 years old at the time of her death. For years, many unsubstantiated theories floated around surrounding Burke. Most stipulated that the boy had hit his sister with a hard object, not intending to kill her, and then either he or his parents had written the strange ransom note in an attempt to cover up the crime. Between 1999 and 2000, Burke Ramsey sued a number of publications, including media outlets and tabloids, for defamation of his name. After this, no one dared to accuse him of being the killer, until a 2016 CBS special aired that did just that. This final slandering of his name in the face of such a profound personal tragedy was too much for Burke, and he filed a formal lawsuit against CBS, alleging that rather than seeking the truth, all they wanted was to accomplish their goals of achieving ratings and profits. After decades of silence on the subject, Burke finally gave a single interview in a last-ditch attempt to exonerate himself. Now, finally, the lawsuit has been settled amicably. The exact dollar amount has not been released, but the initial lawsuit sought upwards of $750 million in damages. Linwood, the Ramseys' attorney, said, "It is now my professional and personal wish for this family that they no longer suffer the pain of false accusations in the future. I sincerely hope the CBS case is my last lawsuit for these fine clients and friends." But the people still weren't ready to let the case go cold. In 2016, private detective Ollie Gray announced that he had made a major breakthrough in the investigation. Having initially been hired by John and Patsy themselves to track down JonBenet's killer, Gray continued to work on the case even after his arrangement with the Ramseys had come to an end. According to Gray, a Boulder man named Michael Helgoff, who was 26 at the time, was responsible for JonBenet's death. Key to this theory is the testimony of John Kennedy, a man who worked at the Helgoff family's junkyard. Apparently, Kennedy had heard Helgoff discussing a great financial deal, as well as pondering what it would be like to crack a human skull in the lead-up to the murder. And although Kennedy claims to have attempted to relay his suspicions to the police, Gray believes that they did not listen to what he had to say. "I got the distinct feeling that the Boulder police had absolutely no interest in anything that took away from their theory that John and Patsy Ramsey killed their daughter," Gray told In Touch in 2016. Additionally, Kennedy claims that somewhere a tape exists which contains Helgoff's confession, but sadly the full truth may never be known. In February 1997, Helgoff was found dead in his home, and although it appeared to have been suicide, Gray believes Helgoff was murdered by accomplices who were afraid that he would talk. At any rate, Gray is still holding out hope that one day the crime will finally be solved. If they could find out who killed Helgoff, he continued, it could lead police to his accomplices in her murder. So will justice ever catch up with whoever so cold-bloodedly ended the life of JonBenet Ramsey? In such a high-profile case, we can only speculate as to what twists and turns might still be in store. JonBenet Ramsey's death has become a topic of fascination for true crime fanatics, being endlessly debated across online forums. No one can work out the puzzle, though the same can be said for many of the world's most infamous crimes.